Hello everyone, my name is Prajan Shrestha and I am a computer science student at Concordia University, Chicago, and this is the first part of my Linux tutorial series. This video is a full beginner-friendly introduction to Linux. We are talking about what it is, where it came from, and why literally millions of developers swear by it, and most importantly, how you can start using it today. So here's what we are covering today. We'll start what Linux actually is, then get into Linux distributions. So distributions are basically the different flavors or versions of Linux. Then we'll look at how to get Linux running onto your machine, and we'll wrap up with a live demo and some advanced commands. So in the following two parts, um, I'm going to demonstrate Linux commands, and then I'm also going to explain those. And in the final part, we'll talk about some advanced commands, which includes Linux security. So, how to make your files and folders secure from other users. So we'll talk about that. So for now, so what is Linux? So at its core, Linux is an operating system just like Windows or Mac OS. It is a software that manages everything happening on your computer, your hardware, your memory, your processes, all of it. But here's where Linux is different from those others too. So Linux is free, it's open source, meaning anyone in the world can look at the code, modify it, and build on top of it. It's also known for being extremely secure and stable, which is why it's not just something nerds use at home. Linux is literally the backbone of the modern internet. We're talking about web servers, platforms like AWS and Azure, supercomputers, embedded systems in your smart devices. So Linux is everywhere. So actually most people don't realize it, but you are probably interacting with Linux dozens of times a day without knowing it. Okay, so let's talk about the history of Linux. So where it actually came from, because this origin story is genuinely interesting. So back in 1991, a Finnish university student named Linus Torvalds built Linux as a personal hobby project. So that's it, something he was tinkering with for fun. So fast forward to the late 90s and 2000s, and things started getting serious. Major companies such as IBM, Intel, Red Hat started putting their weight behind Linux. So Dell started shipping it on servers. The open source community exploded, and today, this is the stat that always gets me. So Linux now runs 100% of the world's top 500 supercomputers, so every single one, and it powers 90% of all cloud computing infrastructure on the planet. And so, all from a hobby project. That's kind of insane when you think about it. Okay, okay, so why should you care? Why do so many developers and engineers choose Linux? So there are a few big reasons. So number one is free and open source. So it's completely free and open source, no licensing fees, no subscription, no vendor login. You have full control to customize it however you want. So number two is huge community. The Linux community is massive and incredibly active. Whatever problem you run into, someone's already solved it and written about it. Okay, so number three is exceptional stability and efficiency. So Linux systems can run for months, sometimes years, without needing a restart. That's why servers love it. And number four, security. Linux is built with security baked in from the ground up. It's one of the most secure operating systems available. Honestly, when you add it all up, free, stable, secure, and fully customizable, it's a pretty complete package. So that's why Linux is, the most favored operating system. So that's why many people use Linux, and you should try Linux too. So now let's talk about Linux distributions. So here's how you think about it. Linux itself is like an engine. different organizations take that engine and build completely different cars around it. Those different versions are called distributions, and there are a lot of them, but don't let that overwhelm you. Let's just look at the most popular ones. And yeah, so Linux distributions are also called distros. Okay, and let's talk about Linux distributions. So number one is Ubuntu, and this is probably the one you have heard of. It's the most widely used distro, especially among developers. The big focus is on being user friendly, so if you are just getting started, Ubuntu is almost always the recommendation. And me personally too, I was using Windows, and then I switched to Ubuntu, and I have found that using Ubuntu is like pretty easy, and then yeah, and it's really helpful too. So yeah, so I'm also using Ubuntu in my machine for now. And the next one is Fedora. So think of this as the bleeding edge distro. It's where a lot of new features get tested before making their way into enterprise systems. It's closely tied to Red Hat and is great for developers who want the latest and greatest. um, and the next one is Debian. So this one is all about stability and a strong commitment to open source principles. It's one of the oldest distros out there and is the foundation that Ubuntu is actually built on. Okay, so the next one is Red Hat Enterprise Linux, RHEL. So it is built for big organizations. Think compliance, long-term support, and professional technical backing. So if you are working in enterprise IT, you will definitely encounter this one. The next one is Kali Linux. Now this one is specialized. It's built especially for cyber security, penetration testing, digital forensics, networking security analysis. Okay, so if ethical hacking or security is your thing, Kali Linux is your distro. Okay, so and finally another one is Linux Mint. So this is perfect for people coming from Windows or Mac OS. It has a familiar desktop layout, it's smooth, and it makes the transition pretty seamless. So there's really a distro for every use case. The one you choose just depends on what you are trying to do. um, so now, okay, so here's the part I know a lot of you have been waiting for. How do you actually get Linux on your machine? You have got a few solid options. Let's walk through them. So the first one is dual booting. So this means you install two operating systems on the same physical computer, say Windows and Linux. Your hard drive gets partitioned and you carve out a separate section for Linux, and then every time you power on your machine, you get to choose which OS to boot into. Okay, so it's a great option if you want the full native Linux experience, but you are not ready to give up Windows entirely. So you get the best of both worlds when using dual booting. So the next one is virtual machine or VM. So a virtual machine is software that emulates an entire computer inside your computer. You run Linux in this virtual environment, and it uses a chunk of your real system's RAM and CPU. The massive advantage here is that it's completely risk free. You can break things, experiment, reconfigure stuff, and your actual machine is totally untouched. So it's honestly the best way to learn if you are just starting out. Okay, so another one is Mac or Linux terminal. Now if you are already a Mac or an existing Linux machine, you might not need to install anything. So on Mac OS, you just open the built-in terminal, and since Mac OS is Unix based, so the command line experience is very similar to Linux. And if you are already on Linux, well, you have already there. So just open the terminal and go on. That's it. So, and there are a few other options worth knowing about. If you are on Windows, there's the Ubuntu app for Windows, also called WSL, which is an acronym for Windows Subsystems for Linux. It lets you run a Linux terminal right inside Windows without any complicated setup. And you can also put a live USB, basically try Linux from a USB drive without installing anything at all. So if you want to experiment without touching your hardware, you can spin up a cloud-based Linux server on something like AWS or DigitalOcean and get a full environment in minutes. So honestly, there's no excuse not to try it. The barrier to entry is really low. So, and that's a wrap up onto the intro section. We covered what Linux is, the story behind it, why so many people choose it, the distributions out there, and all the ways you can get started. Up next, we are jumping into a live tutorial and demo, so you will actually get to see Linux in action, and we'll go through some more advanced commands such as security features. So if you found this helpful, do me a favor and drop a like. It genuinely helps the channel a lot. And if you have any questions, throw them in the comments below. I read every single one. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.